How did you do that?
A whole lot of faith, a whole lot of love, and a whole lot of support from everyone, from my family on out, and people all over the United States and beyond. The love that was just expressed through prayers, through thoughts, through cards, was just amazing, and it brought me back. I'm not going to lie. I was in a dark place when they said that Danny didn't make it that Sunday on July 19, 2020. And I remember screaming in the waiting room, will somebody tell me whether I'm planning 2 funerals or 1? And Mark was fighting for his life.
It's your husband?
Yeah, my husband, Mark, of 28 years, just past July 28th. We've been married 28 years now. And I remember just going dark. And I tell people that it felt like a light switch just turned off. And
this is your beautiful boy. These are pictures you share with us.
Oh my gosh, I just, I started reminiscing again today when I was pulling them all out. That was his junior prom. So handsome, yet so goofy. He was
Rangers fan.
There's my husband, Mark, and that was his, buddy. And Danny was just, loved life, Nicole. He just loved life, every moment of it. I always think about, like, his senseless death made sense of his life. Because when he was saddest is when he was alone in his room with nothing to do.
Yeah. You have talked about his murderer, and you were targeted for assassination, casing your house.
Yeah.
And I read this speech that you gave on his birthday this year, right?
Yeah.
3-year anniversary. You think that you locked eyes with him, that you saw him on your block. Can you tell us about that day?
Yeah, so it was Daniel's weekend celebration.
Right.
And I
love that. I, too, don't have a birthday. It's like a week-long celebration. Because a day is not long enough.
My husband likes to say every day is your birthday.
Correct.
But yeah, no, we had decided to invite friends over on the 17th. It was a Friday night, and he was so excited. He was jumping out of his skin. When the doorbell rang, he would run and go get the door and introduce us and look at my mom. She ordered food for us. He was so excited. And all the while, the man was outside our door watching his friends one by one come in. And then, it was COVID, so we were worried. We tried to separate everyone as much as we could. And the next morning, I kissed a lot of Danny's friends goodbye, but the ones that stayed were headed to the beach. And I had made breakfast for them that morning, and I'll never forget it, because I put too much parsley in the eggs.
Parsley in their eggs salad.
I should have noted to self, kids that age don't want anything green in there. So, but I remember wanting to give him his privacy. So I grabbed our 2 dogs, and I walked down the street to this grassy area by our house. And as I was walking, just something didn't feel right. And I noticed a car was sort of out of place. And I remember looking, and he looked. We locked eyes for a second, and then he just looked away. And I would later find out that that would be the man that would come the next day at 5 o'clock, ring our doorbell, and take my only child.
And he was looking for you.
Yeah, he wanted me.
Why?
He was angry with me. He felt I wasn't moving his case fast enough, but truth be told, he was a self-proclaimed anti-feminist. I believe a racist, based on what, I've been told that he wrote about me in the manifesto, which I haven't read. And, I think he was angry with the world. And he decided to take it out on me. One of the things that I found out during an FBI debriefing after the murder was that day, Sunday, he went down to the desk and paid for 3 more nights. He was staying in a hotel about less than a mile.
So he wasn't going to leave till he...
Oh, no. And I remember saying to the agent, why do you think he did that? And he looked at me stone cold and he said, ma'am, he was going to kill you and stay long enough to get the job done. And then I remember, because I was at the time, I didn't know whether it was my job that did this or whether it was something else. And I remember asking the special agent in charge, why didn't he come in to get me? I mean, he must have heard me by that time screaming, what is happening? And I remember running up the stairs. And when I got up the stairs, something no mother should ever see. There's Danny perpendicular to the door, holding his chest, just silent, like softly moaning. And my husband was at the porch. He had dragged himself to the porch, trying just to get a license plate of this guy. And then I remember kneeling down and I lifted up Danny's shirt and I saw the bullet hole. And then Mark managed to get himself right back to where we were, and we were flanking him. And I tell everybody that, I always think of Sally Fields and, that movie that she played, I think it was Steel Magnolias. And she's talking she's saying, I was there when that beautiful baby came into the world. And I was there when he went out. So, it's sort of like a blessing that he knew his parents were right there. And, it was the worst day of my life. But I have to stay in the light. I have to honor him. My son expects Mark and I to thrive in this world. Not just survive, to thrive. And I always tell people that when Daniel was in his human form, he gave our life purpose. He still gives my life purpose. It's just now it's shining on other people.
I can't imagine that. And I said this to you yesterday. I can't imagine finding the strength to do the same thing in your shoes. But I wonder if you ever were scared before this, or if you had sort of like the bliss of ignorance, right, of not knowing.
They do a good job in telling us, how to take precautions. And we were very precautious, We talked to Danny about not accepting packages, don't bring them into the house.
But not opening things that are marked.
Right. But it was COVID.
Right.
And so we were ordering every day. And my son, I love him to death, and he loved my cooking, but he did love himself some Uber Eats. And so he would order his whatever he wanted, burritos, and they were coming constantly. And I think our defenses kind of are just, loosened up a bit. And we all got a little, but I got to tell you, again, I'm a very spiritual person, and I don't believe in coincidences. I always say, Danny's friends from Catholic University said, Mrs. Anderl, there's no such thing as coincidences. There's God incidences, they tell me. Danny was in the basement with me that day. We were cleaning up right before the doorbell rang. And we were having one of those deep conversations that, him and I had often. And he was telling me all his worries with his friends and everything. And I remember he was swinging a wiffle ball bat.
Always, right?
Yeah,
always swinging a sports stick.
Something. And he just, Mark had come down for a second. And Mark, I tell everyone, that was his buddy. His sports buddy, but I was his confidant. And so he was pouring his heart out to me about some stuff. And he looked at his dad and he was like, Mom and I are talking. Yeah. And so Mark bolted up the stairs, and Danny turned around and he said, Mom, keep talking to me. I love talking to you. And it was at that very moment that the doorbell rang. And he said, his face changed, Nicole, from calm and serene to anxious and concerned.
Alert.
In a second. And that wasn't Danny. And before I could say, don't get it, Dad'll get it, again, ran up those stairs to meet his fate. And, a lot of people say, we don't know what Danny and this man, because Mark was coming around the living room door, it's our foyer, and really to the right of the foyer, if you're staring out onto the street, was the living room. And Mark was coming around. And he heard stuff, but he can't tell us what it was. And this man had killed a week earlier, same MO,
right,
with a lawyer that he was angry.
California.
Yeah, And when he shot that lawyer, he made the lawyer come to did the same thing, posed as a delivery guy. He needs to sign for it. When the lawyer came, he started shooting and stepped into the foyer to finish the job. They did all the forensics in my house. That man's footprint was nowhere to be found.
My son kept him out of your house.
Kept him out of our house.
Away from you.
Away from us, away from me, and away from his father, who he knew was right there. So in my mind, that was an intentional act of my son's, a sign of bravery and courage. So how can I not be brave and courageous as well?
No, I mean, you've changed the world. You've changed the laws. I mean, let's deal with the federal law first, and then we'll talk about the work that still needs to be done. Daniel's law.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I started on this mission while, I say to everybody, the light switch went on in the hospital at some point, thank God, and started on wanting to do, played that video, and that was the first step of the journey that I've been on. Luckily, we've seen, New Jersey pass a law in 4.5 months after the attack. It's called Daniel's Law. Shields our home addresses and other personally identifiable information. And it took a bit to get the federal law but I look at blessings, and it passed last year, December 23rd, 2022. Yeah. What a Christmas present we got. And President Biden signed it. It's a great law. I'm thankful to all the congressional leaders that met and worked in a bipartisan way to get it done.
What does it do? Does it create more flags for law enforcement, or keeps the information off the internet, or what does it do?
So it's a lot of things that the federal law does. The federal law keeps our personally identifiable information, our home addresses, our mobile numbers, things that people can use to track us off federal websites. It prohibits data brokers from selling that information. There is a mechanism if indeed there is your information out there and we can't get, the company or the website to take it down. We can seek assistance from the director of the administrative office of the courts to help us. It does a lot. It gave more ability to the marshals and funding. We've got something called a vulnerability management program now. People all the silos aren't there as much. People are cross communicating, and so it's great. And the law is a solid step in the right direction. The problem is that the law has its limits.
Right.
Federal judges are covered, but state and local judges are not covered. Right. We have over 30,000 state and local judges that serve this country, that serve their states. And we have no idea of right now how to even track whether there are how many judges have lost their lives, as I like to say, in the line of duty. There is no central repository for this information. There's no discussion. And to boot, there are not a lot of states that have laws aimed at judicial officers. There's a handful. And so, in order for the federal law to work, you need the states to pass similar laws.
Right.
And the federal law is a perfect template for it.
Right.
You could look to the federal law. We have exceptions for newsworthy stories, for matters of public concern.
Right.
So there are exceptions that can be, that each state can really work with. But what we need is governors to buy in, and we need chief justices.
How could they not? I mean, we live at a moment where, and I want to ask you how you come at it from the other piece, right? Changing the culture, softening the rhetoric, changing the hatred. But how, every person in the arena faces threats. How is it not something that everyone's rowing in the same direction on?
I think that there are so many reasons why we could probably say they're not working to pass these laws, but I think there are so many more reasons that we need to.
Right.
I mean, we need to protect judges. We need to make judges feel protected. Judges need to be able to do their jobs without fear of retaliation, retribution, or death.
Right. It's like the most basic tenet of our democracy.
Absolutely, and what we're founded on in this country, right? So the Constitution mandates, democracy mandates that we protect judges. I mean, listen, I've been giving speeches all across this country, and I'm not It's not hyperbole when I say that, to topple a democracy, you can just look at history and you can see they go after judges. The judges are the first they target. We have to realize that this country is great because all facets of our government work and stay in their lanes, right? But we have to work together. And we have to protect judges. Judges have to feel safe. Sadly, I know you covered the story. Post Daniels' murder, we have had near misses with Justice Kavanaugh and then poor Wisconsin Judge Romer, who was retired for 15 years, but someone who held a grudge went to his house on a Friday at 6 a.m. and, zip-tied the judge. And I still think of his family. And I still think of his family. And every time something happens, Mark and I have wounds that will never heal. And when we see something like threats on judicial officers, and we know that there's so many states where judges remain vulnerable, it is something to really just give us pause and continue to fight. I probably ask, where do I get my... And I feel like I get it because I never want anyone
to go through this,
to feel what Mark and I feel on a daily.
How do you fix sort of the political culture so that there's a political punishment, not a political award, when a prominent figure like Donald Trump attacks the judge who will have his case?
I think at the end of the day, we can start changing the way we give that news, how do we cover it, how we talk about it. I like to think, I read a book called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you ever Don Miguel Ruiz, and it talks about the rules, but the first rule is be impeccable with your word. And I try every day to be impeccable with my word.
What does that include when that happens? What does that look like?
I think about what I'm going to say before I say it.
And the consequences.
Everything. I start to think, if what I'm about to do, is it going to help the situation or is it just going to hurt someone's feelings?
When you don't name the killer, and I know Fred Guttenberg also doesn't ever name the individual who took his daughter's life. Some of this is an important note for all of us, and I've learned from people who have lost how to do that. But on these threats that seem like they're going to be part of the next presidential campaign, how do we treat them with the real and grave danger they present?
I think at the end of the day, when we set an example, each of us in our everyday lives and outwardly, how we deal with people, how we begin to change the way we deal with one another, the civility. Words matter, conduct matters. And when we now no longer tolerate or have a stomach for it or want to feed into it, that is the way we start grassroots.
Change, sure.
Grassroots. I can tell you that in my little circle, how I've changed, the way I talk to people, the way people talk to me. And I try every day to remember that, what I want to do is be an instrument of change, of positive change. How can I make this place, this world, a better place? As you said, we are living in dark times right now. But we have the power to change that. We have the power to say to our leaders, we don't want that. We're not buying that. We want, we are going to support judges. We're going to pass legislation to protect judges. We're going to...
Because we need them, whether they're perceived to be on our side. I know you don't like that, and I'll take that note from you, to always reveal who appointed a judge, that it sort of connotes political bias where there may not always be any.
It never used to be that way. But now anytime any judicial officer is spoke of, the rulings are spoke of, it starts with appointed by, appointed by. And I think that, what's the inference? Let me tell you something. We take oaths. And I have to say that I truly believe in our justice system. I am a proud...
You still do?
Oh, I'm a proud American. My mom was from Cuba and my dad from Mexico. And my mom had a 4th grade education. And she made sure that all of us went to college. And here I am, growing up in Union City, New Jersey, the daughter of a single mom. And I became the first Latina United States District Judge for the District of New Jersey, only in America. Only in America does that happen. So I do believe that we are, in my opinion, I'm so proud of being an American. I'm so proud of being a citizen. And I just think that we have to start remembering what we're all about.
Who we are.
Remembering who we are, remembering what we're all about, remembering that together we accomplish so much more than when we're on our own, that together we can move mountains. By ourselves, it's just a lonely existence.